Guys, in this video, I want to discuss one of the biggest lies in the fitness industry. This is a lie that isn't discussed a lot, and I think it should be brought forth a little bit better. This lie is how good your body looks directly correlates with how much knowledge you have and how good of a personal trainer you are. And I'm going to use 3 examples, specifically this guy, and this guy. Out of 3 of these people, there's probably one that most people would go with, and it's the first one. But let's not count out the other 2, especially because one of them's me. Let me go into a little bit of my background and my history. I've been a personal trainer for about 8 years, and through my journey, I've learned a lot mentally as well as physically. When I first started my fitness journey, I was also pretty fresh into the gym as well. And my goal was to be just like the biggest person in the gym, with 6-pack abs and the biggest muscles that I could have. The way that I trained was, of course, bulking in the winter, cutting in the summer, and always trying to get that 6-pack abs. Every winter, I would bulk up, and what Bro Science Life says is your bulk goes too good that you just get fat. And that's exactly what happened every winter. So every summer, I would try to cut down as much fat as I could, and I would end up starving myself. I became so obsessed with getting 6-pack abs, I would get so frustrated that I would be cutting for 6 months, and I wouldn't get anywhere close. And you're probably thinking, you're a personal trainer and you don't know how to get yourself a set of abs? Well, yeah, because there's also other aspects of my life that I enjoy. That includes traveling, that includes dancing, that includes a bunch of other things that isn't necessarily fitness. If you travel a lot like I do, it can be hard sometimes to fit in your daily caloric needs or to be able to eat as healthy as you can when you're in a different country. What ended up happening was I stopped becoming so obsessed with getting a 6-pack, building as much muscle as possible, doing the bulk and the cut. And actually what ended up happening is I now look better than I've ever been. I'm the leanest I've ever been, and I'm the strongest I've ever been. And I also feel the best that I've ever been. And that's all because I stopped obsessing over how my body looked like. Now that you know about my story, let's dive a little bit deeper into the mistakes a lot of people make when they're trying to choose a personal trainer. The biggest mistake that a lot of people make is they choose the trainer that looks like the body that they want. The issue with that is that everybody's genetics are completely different. Let's compare 2 completely different people. Let's compare 50 Cent versus Chris Hemsworth. These are 2 people that generally people don't compare. I want to discuss something that people may not notice. Both of these guys are ripped, but as you can see, one guy definitely has a bigger chest compared to the other. Does that mean that one person worked their chest less than the other? No. What that means is that this person has different genetics compared to the other person. Chris Hemsworth can grow some pretty great arms, but his chest doesn't seem to pop as much as 50 Cent's. And when you're looking for a personal trainer and you base your choice solely off of, oh, I want this person's chest, I want this person's shoulders, I want this person's arms, then that's not really setting a realistic example just because that can be based a lot off this person's genetics. Let's take me, for example. I can't grow a really big chest, but as soon as I do 1 barbell squat, my legs blow up. And people will say, oh, how did you get your legs so big? And I'm like, I just do the same thing that everybody else does. The difference is that I have different genetics and it's easier to grow my legs than other parts of my body. That doesn't mean that I don't know how to build someone's chest or how to give them directions to build up their chest. It's just for me personally, I have a more difficult time building my chest compared to some other people. I've talked a little bit about myself, my body, and my experience in talking about genetics. Let's go into the other side of the spectrum, the perfect body, V-Shred. If you were to look at this guy first glance and you were to know that he was a personal trainer, you would immediately go to him. He's got the perfect body. I mean, he's got perfect chest, shoulders, he's ripped all the time. He's grown a big and successful business just solely based off his body. Here's the problem though. He's pretty controversial. Why is he controversial? Well, that's because he's been critiqued by a lot of other fitness peers who are on YouTube who have a more significant and knowledgeable background. At least that's just from what I've seen. When I go onto his website and you look at about him, there's not really anything to see. However, you've had people from Athlete X, Dr. Mike Israetel, and a bunch of other YouTubers who have critiqued V-Shred's knowledge and his expertise and have debunked a lot of the things he says. And that begs the question, is he actually a good personal trainer? Does he know what he's talking about? Well, he has a lot of testimonials and reviews that say, yeah, he does. But here's the problem. The problem is that when he gives you that sales pitch, when he gives you that ad talking about what the problem is, why you can't lose weight, how he can help you, a lot of the things he says, like somatotype, is debunked. It's false. That's what makes it an issue about being a personal trainer. If your sales pitch is based off of taking advantage of people's lack of knowledge, then to me that questions the effectiveness of someone's personal training program. But I understand the whole idea of a personal trainer is to help someone who has a lack of knowledge of the fitness industry, how to lose weight, how to build muscle, things like that. The problem is using a sales pitch that's not up to date with the modern fitness industry or science. Somatotypes are something that's still taught today, but it's not the most effective way to train people. Unfortunately, you have a lot of trainers that are like this. They have a really good body, but they tend to use outdated material in order to sell their programs just because of how they look. And that's the main problem of the fitness industry, are personal trainers selling how their body looks while using outdated material. But there's also a bunch of fitness YouTubers who have great bodies who also know exactly what they're talking about. I mean, Dr. Mike Israetel, Jeff Nippard, Tyler Path, all of these guys have great bodies and they have a huge following and they do know what they're talking about. The problem with the fitness industry are people who have these great bodies who sell information that isn't as effective as other people's. So let's talk about someone who has a good body but doesn't have the six-pack abs. That's James Coppola. James Coppola is really big on Instagram. He's not so big on YouTube, but I think he's a good example of someone who doesn't have the six-pack abs, who may not have that ideal, lean, ripped body that people want, but he knows exactly what he's talking about. James Coppola is a personal trainer who has a BS in exercise science, and he's been training since he was 18. He has a very good background and knowledge of everything fitness. But the issue here is people's visual expectation of him. If you hear him speak, you're like, that guy knows something. That guy knows exactly what he's talking about. But if you were to look at him and see that he doesn't have a six-pack, you may say, well, he doesn't really know how to help people lose weight because he doesn't have a visual six-pack. And I'm not trying to say this man isn't successful because of how his body looks. The man's very successful based off his knowledge and his experience. The point I'm trying to make is that he doesn't have this perfect six-pack ripped body, and that's okay. He's still a very successful personal trainer. The reason he's a successful personal trainer is something that I touched upon briefly about my fitness journey, and it's that not only does he talk about physical fitness, he also talks about it being sustainable and being able to be a long-lasting journey with your mental health as well. When I first started working out and going to the gym, I was always comparing myself to other people. I was saying, I want to be this big. I want to be this ripped. This is who I want to look like. It takes a long time for people to love their bodies and still being able to be fit. You may have people who look great, but their own views of themselves are terrible. So it's really important to be able to find that sustainability in your fitness journey. When clients come to me and they say, I want to have toned arms, I want to be able to have a six-pack, it's more important to set a deeper goal that doesn't sound so shallow. So instead of saying, I want to have toned arms, maybe say, my goal is to build more muscle, especially in my arms. And instead of saying, I want to have a six-pack, be able to say, I want to be able to lose some body fat. If you have those previous goals where you want to have toned arms, you want to have a six-pack, that can set expectations that lead to disappointment instead of the goals like build muscle and lose fat, where you can end up being proud of yourself with the goals that you've achieved. All three of us have knowledge and expertise and experience, but it's important that when you're choosing a personal trainer, not just to focus on how their body image looks, because that can be what's keeping you from your fitness goals. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Make sure to like as well as subscribe so that you keep getting more videos like this, and let me know in the comments your thoughts on this video.